certainly there's a lot to break down from the president's more than hour-long speech.
Anderson, this president is a serial liar, and he serially lied tonight. I counted preliminarily more than 20 false or misleading claims. I want to go through a whole bunch of them quickly because I think it's all important. Trump said Joe Biden is, quote, talking about taking down the border wall. Biden has specifically, explicitly rejected that idea. He just said he'll stop further additional construction. Trump claimed, as always, that he is the one who passed the Veterans' Choice Law. Barack Obama signed that into law in 2014. Trump signed a 2018 law to modify it. Trump said, I have done more for the African-American community than any president since Abraham Lincoln. That is ludicrous. Lyndon Johnson, for one, signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Trump again touted a, quote, record 9 million job gain over the past 3 months. He didn't mention, as usual, that that gain follows a record 22 million job loss over the previous 2 months. He said he'll, quote, continue to lower drug prices. They've increased during his presidency. He said they opened a Jerusalem embassy for less than 500,000. Early documents show it was at least 21 million. He claimed NATO member spending has increased for the first time in about 20 years. Spending, in fact, rose in 2015 and in 2016 before he took office. He said he will always, and Republicans will always, strongly protect people with pre-existing conditions. That pledge has already been broken. He and they have repeatedly tried to weaken those protections in Obamacare. He claimed again that he banned travel from China and Europe. No, he imposed partial restrictions with many exemptions. Tens of thousands of people continue traveling over. He boasted about the COVID testing system and about his general response. Look, experts near universally say the U.S. was fatally slow in its response, especially slow in setting up adequate testing. He said that he ended what he called a NAFTA nightmare, and he signed a brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the USMCA. That agreement preserves, maintains most of NAFTA. He boasted about building about 300 miles of border wall. What he didn't say is that most of that is a replacement barrier. As of August 7th, according to official data, just 5 miles had been built where none existed before. He suggested that Joe Biden would confiscate guns. That's baseless. Biden is running on a non-mandatory buyback of so-called assault weapons. He said Democrats want to defund the police. Biden, again, doesn't, has rejected that. He said he has, quote, very good information that China wants Biden to win because Biden is soft on China or cheerleads for China. The U.S. intelligence community says China wants Biden to win because it sees Trump as unpredictable. He said Biden vowed to close down charter schools. Biden's plan is skeptical on charters, but would not abolish them entirely. He denounced Biden for voting for the Iraq War. Biden did indeed vote for the Iraq War, but what Trump doesn't mention is that he also supported that invasion. He said Democrats twice removed the word God from the Pledge of Allegiance at their convention. 2 individual caucus meetings outside the main primetime programming did leave it out, but it was uttered in every primetime event. Trump denounced so-called cancel culture as like an insidious left-wing thing. He, Donald J. Trump, has tried to get dozens of people and entities canceled, fired, boycotted, including literally last week, Goodyear. He said he imposed an order to give 10 years in prison to rioters. That's a maximum discretionary sentence up to judges in existing laws. His order just asked the government to fully enforce. And he said that Biden's plan would eliminate America's borders. No, just no. It's wrong.
Oh, that's it?
There's more.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
How much time do you got, Anderson?
Wow. Daniel Dale, keep at it. Thank you.
Let's talk about some facts. Here's our fact checker, Daniel Dale, the hardest working man in the news business. Daniel, you were busy fact checking President Trump. Lay it out. Lay it on us here. What did you hear?
Don, there was just so much lying tonight from the president, as there often is. My preliminary count is that we had more than 20 false or misleading claims from the president alone, let alone all the other speakers. You can divide them into categories, I think. There were false claims, some of them you can call them lies, about Joe Biden. He said that Biden is talking about taking down the border wall. Biden has specifically rejected that idea. He suggested Biden might confiscate guns. Biden is running on a non-mandatory, a voluntary buyback of so-called assault weapons. He suggested or said Biden would entirely eliminate America's borders. This is just complete nonsense. He again suggested Biden wants to defund the police. Biden has explicitly rejected that. I think another category of falsehood, dishonesty, lying was Trump's own supposed accomplishments. So he again claimed that he is the one who got that Veterans' Choice Law signed. Barack Obama signed it in 2014. He claimed that he is partly responsible for the first NATO member spending increase in about 20 years. Spending was increasing in 2015 and 2016 before he took office. He again ludicrously claimed that he has done more for the African American community than any president since Lincoln Reagan, Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. You can talk about other presidents as well. And I think the third important category, guys, is his attempts to rewrite the history of the coronavirus pandemic. So not only did he describe the fatally flawed testing system as a smashing success, he also touted what he called a record job gain of 9 million over the past 3 months. He didn't mention at all, not a hint of a mention, that this gain follows a record 22 million job loss over the previous 2 months. We're still in the hole of 13 million. So there's just so much wrong here, and we hear this from Trump at rallies when he's off script. I think it's notable tonight that a lot of it was in the text. This was pre-written, pre-scripted dishonesty.
Interesting. Chris, got anything? You want to jump in here? Because that was a whole lot what Daniel Dale just said there. And I'm sure, Daniel, you could go on.
Well, two things.
More.
One of the interesting economic metrics that people should keep an eye on is, of course, job development. And the idea that this president made the best economy ever when it comes to jobs, you have to qualify 2 ways. One, not since this pandemic, and the pandemic is on his watch. And the inability to adjust wound up sucking the life out of a lot of the economic vitality that consisted before. Second, if you are to look at job growth, just raw score, apples to apples with Obama, take the first 3 years, okay? That was the strongest metric for Trump, right? 1.5 million jobs fewer than Obama's last 3 years.
Yep.
So apples to apples, it doesn't mean that the growth isn't good. It means that it's not the best. That goes to telling the truth.
But he says it's the best economy, and he says, and it's just not. But go on.
Fine.
Sorry.
But Daniel, here's the bigger point. You've been checking the lies forever. It has literally been the full employment plan for you. My theory of the case is this. His voters know what you're telling them is true. They know that 80% of what you say is probably right. Not to discount you, but just in their own minds. They don't care because they believe the alternative to him is worse, because they all lie, because Joe Biden is led by a bunch of lefties that want to destroy the difference between a man and a woman, kill every baby they can, and make America crazy, where blacks and their kooky white friends run around the country trying to kill everybody. So it's not really about lying and who's telling the truth and who isn't. I think that this election is going to come down to a very negative aspect of who's worse.
That's fair. Chris, I say 2 things. One, I think a lot of people do care, and the dishonesty does matter to a lot of voters. I hear from some of them. But number 2, I think you're right that for a lot of voters, maybe especially Trump voters, it's not about the dishonesty or non-dishonesty. It's about their policy preferences. They say he cut taxes, moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and that's fine with me. It's not my job to get people to vote for Joe Biden. I just put the information out there, and what people want to do with it, they can do with it.
Because it wouldn't make sense any other way, Don. The numbers don't make sense. This race can't be this close if people are valuing the quality of the information and messaging they're getting from the candidates. It can't be this close.
Here's the thing, and this is not me, and I think we gave Kirsten short shrift, and I'll take the blame for that. I'm sorry. But Kirsten says to me, people choose their candidate, then they make up the reasons they support them. Facts won't make them change their mind. There's tons of social science to back that up. So,
but facts still matter. We got to stand up for them.
She's right. She's right. Post and pre. See, the pre part is important also. What does that mean? That if you have in your mind, remember, perception's reality often in politics, and feel often beats fact, okay, to fill out Kirsten's point. And what does that mean here? Is that if you are afraid of a destruction in your culture, then anything that prevents that is acceptable to you. Even Donald Trump. Because at the end of the day, he will stop the things that you fear will happen if the other guy is in there.
But when it doesn't happen in 4 years, how do you still believe that? That's the question.
His job is to stop it, Don. There's nothing to see because he has stopped it from happening.
But stop what?
He has stopped more lefty craziness.
Like what?
The destruction.
Like taking your guns? No one has taken guns.
Thank God for Donald Trump.
Okay.
He kept the lefties from doing it.
Okay, what else?
Anything that might have happened if Hillary Clinton had gotten
If you ask about the border wall and people coming over the border, again, this is BS.
He built the wall.
Right. But what they will because of our immigration laws, some people can touch the wall and they're citizens. Doesn't matter if they go over the wall.
They're not citizens, but they have a right to fight for asylum.
So then what the hell is a wall? How much of the wall has really been built, Daniel?
It's about 300 total miles, but of those 300, only about 5 miles, at least as of August 7th, were entirely new, built where no barrier existed before.
5 more than what happened with Clinton.
It's all so sad because none of it is true. And so to me, when you say, oh, I forget how you characterize it. To me, it's just people being gullible.
Or
just being gullible.
afraid, Don. They are afraid of things.
What?
And
I was afraid of the dark when I was a kid. Did not mean it was real. I thought there was a boogeyman under my bed. Did not mean it was real. I didn't find out there was a real boogeyman until I think it was 13, when this guy named Chris Cuomo came over to work for CNN. And then there was a real boogeyman in the building. That was it.
What I'm saying is that in politics, fear sells, and it's very hard to combat. And it makes the job for Biden tougher than any poll is suggesting.
And Daniel
That's
Dale
all I'm saying.
is saying there are 2 boogeymen on each side of me. Oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into?
I'm just enjoying listening to your conversation. Carry on, gentlemen.